Welcome to my YouTube channel. Hit the like button, share your thoughts, subscribe, and tap the bell icon. The kick that sparked it, or the boot, hit her ribs before the words even registered. Get your hands off the door. The officer barked. Ava Monroe's body folded sideways like a paper doll, her face scraping the warm Los Angeles pavement as her sunglasses skittered out of reach. Her silk scarf, a custom Hermes piece with the Monroe Technologies logo embroidered in one corner, fluttered to the gutter like confetti at a funeral. Her breath caught in her throat. Pain screamed from her ribs, hot and immediate. The wind had been knocked out of her, and for a few seconds, all she could hear was her own heartbeat pounding in her ears. People weren't supposed to treat her like this anymore. Not since her face had been on the cover of Forbes under the headline, "From foster child to billionaire CEO." Not since she'd been invited to speak at the UN. Not since she'd built schools across 3 continents and launched one of the most disruptive clean energy startups in the world. But none of that mattered now. Not to him, to this cop. She was still just a black woman standing beside a luxury car in an upscale neighborhood. Ava flinched as his gloved hands yanked her arms behind her back. "I said, don't move," the cop snapped, twisting her wrist with force that felt personal, but she was too stunned to respond. Blood trickled from her bottom lip. Her ribs ached with every shallow breath. "This is a mistake," she whispered. "I live here." He shoved her face first against the gleaming black door of her Rolls-Royce, as if her words had offended him. "Fancy ride," he sneered. "You boozed this from someone, or is it your boyfriend's?" Ava froze. "No," she said slowly, lifting her chin. "It's mine. I can show you." "Don't lie to me," he snapped, reaching for his cuffs. Across the street, curtains shifted. A few neighbors were peeking, some even holding phones. But no one stepped out. No one spoke. No one helped. Except for him. A tall man stood at the edge of the sidewalk, still as a statue. Dressed in a dark hoodie and jeans, he held his phone out in front of him, silently recording. He didn't flinch when the cop turned toward him. "Hey, stop filming." The officer barked. The man didn't move, didn't say a word, just kept the phone steady. Ava saw him clearly now. Deep brown skin, calm eyes, short beard, young, maybe mid-30s. Something about him felt composed, intentional, not just a bystander. The officer hesitated, just for a second, but it was long enough. Ava pulled in a full breath and found her voice. "My name is Ava Monroe," she said, loud, clear. "CEO of Monroe Technologies. I own this home. I own this car. And you're making the biggest mistake of your career." The cop glanced at her again, uncertain. Then a second squad car pulled up. 2 more officers stepped out, older, more experiencedly. One of them, a Latina woman with sergeant stripes, walked up briskly and took in the scene. Ava's bleeding lip, the way her wrist was twisted, the phone still filming from across the street. "Officer Randall," the sergeant said slowly. "What the hell is going on?" "She was trying to break into the car," he muttered. "Didn't have keys, wasn't complying." "She owns the car," the sergeant said, squinting at Ava. "That's Ava Monroe. She was on CNN last week, remember? The wildfire fund." The younger cop's face paled slightly. The sergeant stepped forward, her tone suddenly cooler. "Ma'am, are you injured?" "I was kicked," Ava said, voice tight with fury. "I'd like paramedics and my lawyer." "Immediately." "Understood," the sergeant replied. "We'll handle that." The younger Caprandal looked like he wanted to disappear. He stepped back, face twitching, mouth half open as if trying to speak but finding no words. Ava didn't look at him again. She looked across the street at the man with the phone, but he was gone. Just like that, no words, no nod, no grand exit. The moment the second car had pulled in, he had slipped away, and something about that haunted her more than anything else. Who was he? Ava was left, not just hurt but cracked open. She'd survived foster homes, boardrooms full of billionaires, and losing her mother to cancer. But this was a different kind of pain. This was a reminder that no matter how far she climbed, someone was still waiting to shove her back down. And yet, something had shifted. The man with the phone, he had seen it all, and even though he'd vanished, Ava had a feeling he wasn't done, not even close. The man who vanished the hospital ceiling was white, blinding, and strangely quiet. Ava Monroe lay still on the narrow bed, one arm strapped to an IV, the other resting against her ribcage. They said she didn't break any bones, just bruised. Minor contusions, the doctor called it, but the pain didn't feel minor. And it wasn't just her ribs that ached, it was the humiliation, the way he'd looked at her, the way he'd spoken to her, like she didn't belong, like her power, her name, her billions, none of it mattered. The nurse walked in, holding a clipboard. "Miss Monroe, there's a Detective Harper here to speak with you. Should I send him in?" Ava hesitated, then nodded. She pulled the thin blanket tighter over her lap and sat up straighter, jaw clenched. Detective Harper entered, late 40s, clean suit, cautious eyes. He didn't carry the smug arrogance she'd seen in the officer who kicked her. But Ava didn't trust him either. "Not yet, Miss Monroe," he said gently, pulling a chair closer. "I'm deeply sorry for what happened. I'm not here to give you excuses. We're conducting an internal review, and Officer Randall has been placed on administrative leave." "Paid leave?" she asked flatly. He hesitated. "That's standard procedure until the investigation concludes." Ava didn't blink, then changed the standard. Harper cleared his throat and flipped open a small notebook. "There's video footage," he said, "from across the street. Was uploaded anonymously to a public forum and has already gone viral. The media's running with it." "I know," she said, nodding toward the muted TV in the corner. Her name was plastered across every banner. "Billionaire brutality, police violence, strikes again. But we want to find the man who filmed it," Harper continued. "We're hoping you may know who he is." Ava frowned. "No, never seen him before." Harper leaned forward, showing her a blurry screenshot from the video. The man's hoodie was up. His face was in partial shadow, but his posture was unmistakable, calm, deliberate, watchful. "Whoever he is," Harper said, "he knew what he was doing. He filmed the exact moment of escalation, then disappeared before backup arrived. No one else on the street saw where he went." Ava's eyes stayed on the screen. "He wasn't just filming, he was waiting for something, or someone." Harper nodded. "We think so too." A pause then. "Do you want to press charges?" Ava's jaw tightened. Her hands curled into fists beneath the blanket. "Yes," she said, "but not just against the officer. I want a lawsuit against the department. I want a full investigation. Civil rights attorneys, public accountability." "You'll have support," Harper said. "There's already a protest forming outside the station. People are demanding action." Good, she thought. Let them scream. But the truth was, this wasn't just about her. This was about everyone who didn't have cameras, or titles, or a billion-dollar company to scream for them. She wasn't going to let it slide. Not this time. 2 days later, the media swarmed her mansion's gate like ants on sugar dot. Every headline was louder than the last. "Billionaire CEO attacked by speaks out. This isn't just about me, who was the man who filmed it all." She hadn't left the house, hadn't returned any calls, except one her old college roommate, now a powerhouse civil rights attorney in D.C. But still, she couldn't sleep. Every night, her mind replayed that man's face. There was something in the stillness of him, the way he didn't look shocked or scared. He looked prepared, like he'd seen it all before, or like he'd come there knowing it would happen. It didn't make sense. Who goes for a walk in a quiet neighborhood, just happens to be recording before the violence begins, and then vanishes without saying a word? And then there was the note. That evening her housekeeper, Rosa, found it tucked beneath the mat by the front door. No envelope, just a single folded piece of paper. Ava opened it slowly, eyes narrowing at the handwriting. Slanted, clean. "You don't know me yet, but I saw everything. I've seen too much. Actually, you're not the first. They buried the others. Don't let them bury this. D. She read it twice, 3 times. Then something cold settled in her chest. This wasn't random. Who was D? What did he mean? You're not the first. Who else? Had they done this too? What was buried? She turned the paper over. Nothing on the back. Just those 5 cryptic lines. And no way to contact him. But he had seen everything, and he was watching. Ava sat down in her office, staring at the monitors showing security feeds of her estate. The woman in those videos looked composed, sharp, still powerful. But inside, something was beginning to unravel. This wasn't just about justice anymore. This was about truth, and the truth had teeth. Someone knew more than they were saying, and Ava Monroe had never let secrets win. Buried truths and broken trust of her hadn't slept. The note from D sat on her nightstand, unfolded, staring at her like it was alive. They buried the others. That line echoed louder than the rest. What others? What did he mean? Buried. By morning, she was back in her home office, no makeup, hoodie on, hair tied back, eyes laser-focused. The billionaire CEO side of her had switched back on, but this time, she wasn't building tech or closing international deals. She was hunting for the truth. Ava opened a private folder on her laptop, a digital vault, where she kept everything the media never saw. Security camera backups, encrypted files, scanned documents from Monroe Tech's internal affairs, private investigator reports. She added the photo Detective Harper had shown her of D2, a new folder titled Witness. Then she made a call. "Hey, it's me," she said when the line picked up. "Damn, Ava, I was just about to call you," came the voice on the other end, her longtime friend and private investigator, Lena Ortiz. "The whole world is watching that video. You okay?" "I'm not calling about me," Ava said. "I need a trace on a man. Partial image, no name, no ID. Might have dropped a note on my property last night." There was a pause. "You think this man's a threat?" "No," Ava said slowly. "I think he's the only one telling the truth." 3 hours later, Lena worked fast. She called back with a shaky voice. "Ava, I ran facial recognition on the best frame from the video. Got a partial match, but it's not solid. Half his past is redacted." "Redacted?" Ava echoed. "Yeah, he used to work under a contract with the city, part of a private surveillance firm, tied to LAPD. Real hush-hush stuff. His name was This Darian Cole. The name hit like a cold wave, went off-grid 2 years ago. No employment history, no address. But here's where it gets weird. He filed a police misconduct report against Officer Randall back in 2021. Ava straightened in her chair. "What?" she whispered. Double quotes. "Yeah, he claimed Randall falsified evidence in a wrongful arrest. But before the case went anywhere, Darian dropped it. Just vanished. So that's what he meant by 'you're not the first,'" Ava said under her breath. There was a long pause. "Ava, this goes deeper, way deeper. I dug through archived records. Between 2018 and 2022, there were at least 7 internal complaints filed against Randall. 5 mysteriously closed. 2 marked inconclusive. 1 involved a teenage boy who, get this, went missing after filing a complaint. Missing." A chill slid down Ava's spine. "And no one knows where this Darian guy is now?" she asked. "No," Lena said. "But here's the punch. There's one more name linked to Darian's complaint. A civilian witness who helped him gather footage back then. Guess who it is?" Ava braced. "Eli Martinez, your director of public relations." Silence. Ava's stomach twisted. Eli had been with her company for 5 years. Loyal, charismatic, the public face of Monroe Tech in front of cameras. He was her friend. She'd trusted him with speeches, strategies, even her personal story. "Lena, are you sure?" she said slowly. "Positive. His name is on an archived file, marked confidential. Looks like he helped Darian document police behavior in a South LA neighborhood, but his name vanished from the follow-up reports. Like someone erased it." Later that night, Tiva waited until everyone left the house. Then she called Eli to meet her in a private lounge. He arrived with that same bright smile that had charmed half of corporate America. "Hey," he said casually, sliding onto the velvet chair across from her. "I was gonna check in earlier, but figured you needed space." She didn't smile. She simply pushed a printed copy of the confidential report across the table. He looked at it. His face changed. "I trusted you," Ava said, voice low. "You knew who that man was. You knew about Darian, about Randall, and you said nothing." Eli exhaled slowly. No denial, just a look of defeat. "I was trying to protect you," he said. "Protect me," she said, fire rising in her throat. "You let me walk blind into this. I could have died, Eli. I didn't think it would happen to you." His voice cracked. "You were too high profile, I thought. You thought they wouldn't touch a billionaire," she snapped. "You thought a nice car and a business suit would protect me." Eli's voice dropped to a whisper. "Darian begged me to help take Randall down. I was scared, Ava. The stuff he uncovered, Randall wasn't acting alone. There were others, a whole chain of cover-ups. And when Darian started getting threats, he disappeared. I didn't know what happened to him." Ava stared at him, cold. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I knew you'd go after it. You always do. And this time, I was afraid they'd kill you." Ava stood from her chair. Her whole body trembled, but her voice was steady. "I don't need protection," she said. "I need the truth. If Darian's alive, I'll find him. And if he's not, Then I'll find out why. Eli looked up at her, eyes full of guilt. Maybe love, maybe fear, but it didn't matter anymore. Ava turned away. This wasn't just her fight now. This was war. The ghost file. 3 days after Eli's confession, Ava Monroe sat in the back of an unmarked black SUV, her laptop glowing dimly in her lap as the city bled past the windows in streaks of streetlight and shadow. The SUV wasn't hers. The driver wasn't her usual security. She'd hired Lena to pull strings and borrow a ride from an ex-military contact, someone with no connection to Monroe Tech, the police, or the media. She needed silence. She needed distance. And most of all, she needed the truth. We're almost there, Lena said from the passenger seat, scrolling through messages on her encrypted phone. If Darian's alive, this is where he'd be. But Ava, he's not the same guy who used to work surveillance. If he's still out here, he's off-grid for a reason. Ava didn't answer. Her eyes were locked on a single file open on her screen, a document Lena had pulled from a deep web archive only accessible through a chain of unlisted backdoors. It was titled, Ghost File, DC-17. Internal Risk Report. Inside were fragments of redacted reports, time-stamped surveillance stills, and case references linking Officer Randall to a chain of suppressed incidents between 2019 and 2021. In nearly every case, the names were missing, except one. Witness, Darian Cole's status, classified, disavowed. Threat level, internal. Ava whispered the word under her breath. Disavowed? What does that mean? She asked, finally turning to Lena. Lena sighed. It means he tried to whistleblow on something, and someone made him vanish. Legally, on paper, he's nothing now. No job history, no rights, no safety net. If he's alive, he's running. Ava nodded once. Then let's catch up. They arrived in South LA after midnight. The SUV pulled into the back lot of an abandoned dry cleaner. The building next door, what looked like a boarded-up auto shop, was marked in the ghost file as one of Darian's last known hiding places. Ava stepped out, zipped up her jacket, and followed Lena around the side, where a single red string dangled from a broken pipe. Lena reached for it, tugged. A quiet click. Then a rusted metal door creaked open from the inside. A man stood in the shadows. Tall, hoodie up, calm eyes. You shouldn't be here, he said. His voice was low, weathered, cautious. Ava's breath caught. It was him, the man who had recorded everything, the man who'd vanished before the second cop car arrived. Derek, she said quietly, you left a note. He didn't confirm or deny it, just stared for a long beat before stepping aside. 5 minutes, he said. That's all. Inside the auto shop, the air was stale and faintly metallic. An old cot, a laptop, a pile of printed documents, and a duffel bag full of burner phones cluttered the space. Ava scanned the room quickly. It was clear Darian lived in fragments, never long enough to settle, always ready to run. She turned to face him. Why me? She asked. Why now? Darian leaned against the wall, arms crossed. Because I've been waiting for someone with enough power to survive the truth, and enough rage to chase it. Ava felt heat rise in her chest. What truth? She asked. Tell me. Darian walked to a folder and slid it across the table toward her. Inside were printed photos, grayscale, time-stamped, names and incident reports, all victims of Randall. One image stopped her cold. A teenage boy, bruised, eyes closed, lying in the back of a police cruiser. Timestamp, April 14th, 2021. This boy, Ava said, voice shaking. He's one of the missing cases. Darian nodded. His name was Isaiah, 15. Randall beat him during a stupid brisk. No body cam footage ever surfaced. I got this photo off a hacked CCTV camera from across the street. I tried to report it. Next day, Isaiah disappeared. So did my job, my records, my apartment. He looked directly at Ava now. They don't erase mistakes. They erase witnesses. Ava clenched her fists. Why didn't you go public? I tried. No one listened. The department was protected, and the press ignored me. They can't ignore you. You're the first target they didn't expect to hit. You have the spotlight now. Use it. Her heart thundered in her ears. She had been thinking about revenge, about lawsuits, about making Randall pay. But this was bigger. This was systemic rot, a cover-up that had destroyed lives and buried names. I need the files, she said. Everything. I'll go public. Darian hesitated. If you go forward with this, they'll come for you in ways you've never seen. This isn't about a cop anymore. This is a network, protecting their own. You'll lose partners, investors, maybe worse. Ava stepped forward, meeting his eyes. I've already been kicked to the ground. I know what that feels like. I won't stay there. A pause. Then, Darian slowly nodded, reached for the duffel bag, pulled out a second flash drive and placed it in her hand. Then we fight. Back at her estate, Ava locked herself in the office, backed up the drive, and stared at the folder labeled Monroe Leak Final. The names, the dates, the audio recordings, it was all there. Her hands shook as she clicked schedule post on her private press platform, selecting a time just 24 hours from now, enough time to alert her lawyer, her PR team, and the families of the victims. But even as the files loaded, she felt it, that still, crawling sense that someone was watching. She turned toward the window, and in the distance, across the street, a black car idled with its lights off. Watching, waiting. She had the truth now, but the price of truth was about to be blood. The price of truth. The leak went live at exactly 9 o'clock. A.M. Ava watched the post publish from the war room in her home, the secure, steel-reinforced office she had built during her company's early cybersecurity years. She had changed the locks, severed internet access to everything but the encrypted server, and told her staff she needed total isolation. The press release hit like a thunderclap. The Monroe leak, what they tried to bury with full video, redacted police documents, witness reports, and audio clips. Each piece of evidence was tied to Officer Randall and several other officials in the LAPD. The headline was brutal, clear, and impossible to ignore. Within minutes, #MonroeLeak was trending worldwide. She paced the room as the first major outlet picked it up. CNN, then The Guardian, BBC, Al Jazeera, even conservative networks couldn't avoid it. Too much proof. Too big a name. Ava Monroe wasn't just accusing the system, she was tearing it open. By noon, the retaliation began. It started with phone calls, threats left on voicemail, twisted voices, scrambled numbers, warnings that she didn't know who she was messing with. Then came the smear pieces. One article accused her of exaggerating the incident with Randall. Another claimed Monroe Tech had secret financial ties to militant activists. Photos of her in protest marches were dragged from the archives, taken out of context. Talk shows speculated about her mental state, but Ava didn't flinch. What she hadn't expected, though, was who they'd target next. That night, around 10 p.m., Ava got the call. Lena's voice was shaking. "Ava, it's Eli." Ava's chest clenched. What happened? He was jumped, leaving the office. Masked men. They took his phone, his laptop, broke 2 ribs. He's at Cedars-Sinai. He's conscious, but it's bad. Ava was already moving, grabbing her coat, her car keys, ignoring the protests of her private security detail. That when she reached the hospital, Eli was barely recognizably swollen shut, stitches above his temple, his breath shallow through cracked ribs. "I'm sorry," he whispered when she sat beside him. She shook her head. "You don't owe me an apology. I should have told you everything sooner." She reached for his hand. "You did what you thought was safe, but they didn't come after me. They came after you. That's how scared they are." He gave a weak smile. "You're turning the city upside down." She didn't smile back. "This is just the beginning." Outside the hospital, reporters were already gathering. Her security urged her to leave. Through the back. She agreed, but as they exited, a message lit up on her burner phone. Unknown number. No contact name. "You're making a mistake. Walk away, or you'll lose more than your reputation. R.R. Randall. She stopped in the stairwell, heart racing. They were watching her still. Even now. She called Lena. "Trace this number." "Right now." Lena called back 10 minutes later. "Burner phone. But I ran a reverse signal. Check it. Pinged off a tower just a block from your house." "Ava, they're watching your home." Ava closed her eyes. "What about Darian? Can we protect him? He's moving again. He won't stay in one place for more than a few hours." "Said to tell you, keep burning it down." Ava swallowed hard. "Tell him I will." The next day, Ava held a press conference. No PR handlers, no corporate backdrop, just a single podium outside Monroe Tech headquarters and hundreds of flashing cameras. "I know what I'm risking," she said into the mic, eyes locked onto the sea of reporters. "But I also know what it feels like to be kicked down and expected to stay silent." I refuse, and I refuse to let the next generation grow up in a world where truth is buried and power protects monsters. She held up a copy of the Monroe leak. These are not accusations, they are evidence, and this is just the beginning. I am calling for a federal investigation, not just into Officer Randall, but into the entire chain of command that enabled his violence and covered it up. The crowd roared, but Ava's voice stayed calm, cold, controlled. I may lose everything, but I will not lose myself. That night, the real hit came. Around 2 a.m., the fire alarm in Ava's estate went off. The security system caught it first. An alert from the basement level where the server for the Monroe leak had been backed up by the time her team reached it. The backup drives were gone. Someone had broken in, bypassed the outer security, and wiped the backups clean. The main leak was still live online, but Ava knew what this meant. They weren't just trying to stop her, they were trying to erase the evidence again. And then came the final blow. Her phone buzzed with a single image, a CCTV screenshot. Darian. Cornered in an alley. Blood on his sleeve. 3 men, approaching with batons. The caption read, "We warned you." Ava stared at the screen, heart frozen. Then she whispered, "No, no, no, no." She called Lena. No answer. Called again. Still nothing. Her hands were trembling now. "Don't do this," she said aloud. "To no one. Don't you dare take him." Ava stood at her window, staring into the night, surrounded by silence. She had started this fight to expose the truth. Now the truth was bleeding, and in 24 hours, she would have to decide, burn the whole system down, or risk losing what's left of the people she loves. The reckoning. The photo of Darian wouldn't leave her mind, even as the city raged outside. Even as her security detail reinforced every exit and sealed off the Monroe Tech Tower. Ava Monroe was still staring at the image. 3 men, 1 alley, blood on the sleeve of the only man who had ever told her the whole truth. She hadn't heard from Darian in over 48 hours. Lena, too, had gone silent. Her house no longer felt like home. It felt like a bunker, or a target. But Ava had made her decision. No more fear, no more hesitation, no more hiding. This wasn't just a scandal anymore. This was war, and she was done playing defense. She made the call at 6:02 a.m.a, direct line to U.S. Congresswoman Fallon Enjaria, longtime ally in criminal justice reform. By 8 a.m., Ava's private jet lifted off the LA tarmac with 2 objectives: request a federal investigation with evidence in hand, testify before Congress in an emergency closed-door session. She brought every file Darian had given her. Every redacted name, every timestamp, even the photo of Isaiah, the boy no one had remembered, until she made the world remember him. The moment she stepped off the plane in D.C., a swarm of federal agents met her, not to arrest her, but to protect her. Everything was moving now. Big dot, and still, Darian was missing. 2 days later, she got the message. A burner phone she didn't recognize lit up in her hotel suite, a video file. She hesitated, her thumb hovering over the screen, then pressed play. Darian's face appeared, alive, bruised, but breathing. "I'm safe," he said. His voice was hoarse. For now. The background was unfamiliar. Maybe a safe house, maybe a shelter. She couldn't tell. "I knew they'd come for me," he continued. "But it doesn't matter anymore. You did what I couldn't. You made the truth too loud to bury." He paused then. "I've spent years underground thinking silence was survival. But you reminded me truth is survival. Real survival. Not just breathing, living." Ava wiped her eyes. The man who had disappeared into the shadows had found his way back into the light. A month later, the arrests began. Officer Randall was indicted not just for assaulting Ava, but for 5 separate cases of excessive force, evidence tampering, and conspiracy. 3 senior officers were also taken in, each one linked to redacted internal memos found in the Monroe leak. Lena resurfaced, alive and furious. She'd been hiding out after discovering that her encrypted channels had been breached. But now that federal agents had her back, she was on fire, testifying, releasing findings, building airtight timelines. And the media, the smear campaign, backfired. People weren't afraid of Ava's anger anymore. They admired it, needed it. She wasn't the black billionaire who got attacked. She was the woman who fought backhand, brought the system down. But it wasn't victory Ava wanted, it was justice. She stood outside a packed courtroom during Randall's arraignment, staring up at the courthouse steps, where hundreds had gathered holding signs. Justice for Isaiah. We are not mistakes. Monroe changed everything. Someone handed her a microphone. A reporter asked, "What do you say to people who still think this was all just a publicity stunt?" Ava smiled, but there was steel behind it. "I say this wasn't about proving I'm a victim. It was about proving they're not invincible." She looked into the camera, and for every person who's ever been silenced, ignored, erased, know this: you were never the problem. They were just scared of your voice. Back at home, months later, the city had changed. So had she. Ava had stepped down as CEO of Monroe Tech, not because she was defeated, but because she had a new mission, one she was finally ready to face. She used her wealth to launch the Cole Foundation, named after Darian, with Lena and Eli as co-directors. Its mission: expose police corruption, protect whistleblowers, and support victims of systemic violence. Darian stayed behind the scenes, still quiet, still cautious, but he smiled more now. And sometimes, Ava would catch him watching the world, like he was part of it again, not just hiding from it. And one day, Ava visited a small school in South LA. A new building had gone up, funded by the foundation. The plaque at the front read, "Isaiah's house, for every child they tried to forget." She knelt beside a young boy who looked up at her and said, "You're the lady from the news." Ava smiled. "I guess I am." "My mum said, you used to be really rich." "I still am," Ava said, "but in different ways now." He tilted his head. "Are you happy?" Ava paused. For the first time in what felt like years, she felt it: peace, purpose, a strange, soft warmth that had nothing to do with money, power, or headlines. "Yeah," she said, "I think I finally am." In the end, Ava didn't just survive the system. She exposed it, burned it down, and built something better from the ashes. She lost a lot, but in doing so, she found something no title or fortune could ever offer: herself. Final lesson: sometimes losing everything is the only way to find who you really are.